All right. I'm so excited to be here with you at the kids table. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting with debut author and one of my BFFs ever, Angela Pham Krans. So, Angela,
Hi,
do you want
guys.
to give a little intro to yourself?
Sure. My name is Angela Pham Krans. I live in the Atlanta area with my husband and two crazy dogs. Um, like Rachel said, I am a debut author with my book Finding Papa releasing on February 7th. I'm super excited and just happy to be here to chat with Rachel and just share more about who I am and a little bit more about Finding Papa.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk about your book because it's amazing and I can't wait to get my copy because it's coming out officially next week, right? Like exactly in a week.
Yes, next Tuesday. I'm totally taking a day off and just celebrating my book birthday.
Oh, that'll be so nice. Do you know what you're going to do yet?
I don't know. Probably like starting the day with a delicious cup of coffee and a pastry of some sort, waking up lazy, and just probably doing all the things that I love to do, which I don't always get to do when, you're waking up and going to work.
Yeah, no, that's true. That sounds like a perfect day, the perfect morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to start by, should we talk about how we met?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Do you want to tell the
Two.
story?
Yeah. Sure. Please, fill in the details.
Okay.
So I think this was 2 years ago, and we were both going. We didn't know each other at the time, and we were assigned roommates at the ABLA Big Sur conference in Monterey, California. So we were assigned as like roomies Friday through Saturday, but I planned on traveling in Thursday night just to not stress out Friday. So I booked a separate room on Thursday, and so just through traveling delays and such, I didn't arrive till 1:30 a.m. at the Hyatt in California. So this is like 3:30 Atlanta time. So I was so exhausted from traveling, and I opened my door and there's this person sleeping in the bed. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this person? It was Rachel, of
Yeah,
course.
it was me.
It was Rachel. And she just turns around, and I don't know how or why she wasn't completely freaked out at 1:30 in the morning with someone walking into the room. But
Well,
she
I was
turns around.
expecting
She's like, oh,
you.
Rachel.
I was expecting to have a roommate. So, like, I was told I had a roommate,
Yeah.
but you were told you weren't. So
Yes.
I wasn't surprised.
Oh, I see. I missed that part. I was just like, how is she not scared that some stranger's busting through her room at 1:30 in the morning?
Well, and I'm
So,
known to be kind of like ditzy when I wake up. And so I remember just seeing you and being like, oh, hi.
I know. It was
And
so
I probably
funny.
said something super weird. So that was our introduction.
Yes. And then we became besties.
How can you not after that? Like after a 1 a.m. encounter where you thought you were going to be alone and there was someone
Yeah.
there. Like we were
Yeah.
bound to be friends.
Exactly. It was meant to be. That's true. Rachel is friendly 24/7.
So I don't know. I have off days. I can get mad sometimes, but we won't go into that. So part of this is bringing one of our favorite kid table snacks. So I was curious, like snack or drink, what did you bring to the kid table?
So I brought a Kool-Aid jammy drink.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't think they had Kool-Aid jammers when I was growing up, but they definitely had Kool-Aid because I remember the Kool-Aid Man commercials like busting through the wall. You guys remember that? Just busting
Yes.
through the door.
And he's like,
Never
oh
got the
yeah.
point of that. Exactly. And so I just remember just loving Kool-Aid, just loving sugar. I'm a big sugar pusher. So so I decided to bring the Kool-Aid drink tonight and enjoy it while we chat.
That's perfect. Was it a thing for you that you turned it into a cell phone? Did anyone here do that? Do you know what I'm talking about at all? So you drink the whole thing and then you like fold it so that the straw is a little antenna and then you pretend it was a cell phone. Now kids just have real cell phones, but that's what we did.
No,
We were really cool.
no, we never did that.
Yeah,
I never did that.
we were really cool.
What are you drinking?
Okay, so I brought Propel. When I was a kid, my family, like my siblings and I would like fight over the Propel because we loved it so much. I don't really know why it was such a staple in our home. I think it was because like one of the ways that, you know, my dad was really money conscious. And so one of our big treats was like when we'd go on a trip and then you go into the gas station and you can get like a drink. And so
Mm-hmm.
there was always the Propels that were there. And so we would always get a Propel, and like I remember my sister would savor it, but I just like full on chug it because I was like so excited, and then I'd be really disappointed because mine was gone, and she was like, "I'm savoring mine." Anyway, so
And is it just water? Is Propel just
no,
water? Or what
well,
is that? Is it flavored drink?
I don't actually know what it's like. Flavored drink. I guess it has 0 calories. Good for me. Yeah. Supposedly it's electrolytes for your workout, but I never use it for my workout.
Oh, you drank as a kid?
I'm really on the ball.
Yeah, I'm starting healthy early.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm drinking like 100% sugar, and you're drinking like electrolytes as a kid.
No, trust me. I had tons of Capri Suns. Like at the kid table itself, I
Yeah.
always had Capri Suns. Don't you
Okay.
worry.
That's so
I love
funny.
that I passed just for a second as like a non-sugar addict because I've always been known to be a sugar addict. So thanks for
Got it.
that couple of minutes where I seemed healthy.
That's so funny.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm curious, like speaking of kid table stuff, what were you like as a kid,
Yeah.
and what was the kid table like for you as a kid?
Yeah. I would say, my parents, being immigrants, they worked a lot when I was a kid. So I remember just being a home alone with my brothers a lot, and really and being responsible for them, and
You have two brothers? Was it
babysitting
two?
them. I have three younger
Three.
brothers. So I started babysitting them since I was 8. So I've always been, I think, I had to grow up a little bit faster than most kids, just because my parents were working all the time, and I had to watch my younger brothers and just trying not to kill them and burn down the house down, which I had a couple of close calls. Trust me, it was pretty scary. I'm like thankful we're still alive. I would say responsible, but also because we were alone a lot. I relied a lot on my imagination and being creative to keep myself, busy and just happy as a kid. I just remember being outside all the time and always having like my imagination would run wild and use whatever I had around me to play and do creative things. I also grew up, and my brothers like still hate me for this. Like they think I ruined their childhood. But I used to love putting on like a summer program, like a summer school for them, where I would like teach them, language arts, long and short vowels and how to spell, and I taught them math and how to make, sciencey projects from books I read from the library. And I enjoyed as a child doing that. And I would make them go to my summer school program for a few weeks. And so they hated it, but I had fun. So I made them like follow my lessons.
No, I would have loved you as a big sister because whenever we would visit my cousins, and they lived in Colorado, I'm in Utah, and whenever we'd visit them like once a year, and all I wanted to play was school, and she was the teacher, and she would do that. I would love that. So
yeah.
I'm sure they secretly loved it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe they weren't like nerds like me or you.
I don't know. They were so young. The older of the three is 4 years younger than I am. So if I was like doing this, at 10 or whatever, he's probably like, what am I, he's like 6 years old trying to, just watch Saturday morning cartoons, and I'm making him take spelling tests.
So you were really responsible. So would you say that like creativity was the way that you were kind of like your space to be a kid then? Because it seemed like other than that, you had to be responsible. You were taking care of your brothers. And so was that like your safe kid space?
I think so. It just kept me entertained, and it kept me busy and doing things that, my parents were busy, so they didn't like drive us. We didn't have like summer camp. We didn't go to like after school programs. It was school and then home. And so that was just how I entertained myself, and, try to entertain my brothers was just making up things and doing things. And I remember putting on like writing scripts and putting on plays and dance performances, and my brothers and I would perform them for my parents.
Are you a dancer?
So it was just, no, no, very elementary, but it was just fun. It was a way for me to, you know, not be bored, just because we just didn't get a lot of that, you know, other programming that maybe other kids had a chance to do, but we just stayed at home a lot, so we had to entertain ourselves. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, okay, so I can see like the roots of where you are now, you know, your creativity as a kid. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious if like as you grew older, how your relationship to that creative self and the kid table, kind of like when you start getting older and the kid table isn't as cool anymore, like
Yeah.
how did that change, especially with you being such a responsible kid and responsible for a lot? How did your
Yeah.
relationship to creativity change?
I think I'm, I think I'm still a kid at heart. Like, I enjoy all those, you know, spending time with the little ones in our family. I have a huge family, and I love spending time with my cousins and, you know, their kids, doing all the Disney stuff or just fun birthday parties and creative stuff. But aside from that, I think as I got older, my like responsibility side took over. So I was so focused on like the should of, like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. So, I mean, when I went to college, I went to technical school, Georgia Tech, studied as an engineer, like, you know, super focused. Folks, the kids there were so smart. I had to work so hard to keep up. And so it was studying. And then after graduating, it was like, oh, well, then you should get a job. You know, kids these days are taking like gap years. Like, I would never have considered that. You know, it's like, oh, I need to get a job right away after college to be employed. And then after I got a job, I need to work hard to get promoted. So it was always doing the adulting thing, you know, and just doing the things I think I should be doing as an adult. And I think along the way, I lost like the what should I be doing to live a more creative, joyful life, the like my childhood. And I mean, there were elements of it. Of course, I was happy, but I think I was not always focused on doing things that were creative and joyful like I did as a child, because I was so focused on being an adult and being responsible. I mean, you obviously you can be creative and responsible, but I think I just kind of brushed it to the side a little bit. Just
Yeah, that's so relatable.
yeah,
I mean, I did the same thing, and it's interesting because I think we're like taught what an adult should be, who an adult should be, and a
mhm,
lot of times that doesn't involve things like picture books, and it doesn't involve things like creativity, and I
yeah,
think that's so
yeah.
sad. And so I'm curious how you found that again, because wait, remind me of what you studied in college, and then what your trajectory was. Like, what were you doing?
Sure. I studied as an industrial engineer at Georgia Tech. And
Okay.
then after I graduated, I went into like logistics and warehousing design. And after that, really, you know, more project management and then consulting work. But when I was still working for Truist, well, so was SunTrust back then, now Truist Bank, I remember sitting in a Six Sigma training class for like a week. And after like 4 days, I was like totally not paying attention. You know, I was just like
Hmm.
kind of wandering, like mine was just wandering. And
Like when you were a kid going
I
outside.
was a kid. Yes. And it just, this idea, I mean, these thoughts just started flowing. And all I could think about was, oh, what stories do I want to write for children? And I took out a piece of scrap paper in the training class, not paying attention, and scribbling down like these story titles and these themes I wanted to write about. And I just felt, I mean, it was just like, I felt like if I didn't write down quickly, like these things would just start to, you know, escape or like disappear into the mist. And so I had to write it down. And I did, but I didn't do anything with it for a couple of years, to be honest. I took that piece of paper home. I put it inside in my drawer, my bedside table, and it sat there for probably a good couple of years. But it was out of sight, but definitely not out of mind.
Mm,
Like the idea of writing just would occasionally pop in my head, month over month. And then finally I thought, you know what? There has to be a reason. Like, it's like the reason why these thoughts are continue to come to mind, to occupy this space in my head. And I wanted to follow it. And it really was, and what really gave me the courage to do that was a book I read by Elizabeth Gilbert. I think it's called
Big Magic?
Big Magic, yes, creative thinking. And she talks about these ideas that are like entities, and they're floating, in the world, and they choose a person, like they almost like, they land on you almost, and they sit there until you're ready. If you accept, this inspiration, you use it. If not, they move on to someone else, right? And so I thought, gosh, this inspiration keeps coming to me. I need to do something about it. And then that's when I really started getting serious about writing. I spoke it out loud. I told my husband this is what I want to do. He bought me a writing webinar on Groupon. And so I took the webinar, and then I bought books, and then I went to conferences, and I found so much joy in it. It never felt like work. Like, I've always been like a studier or a researcher. And so I did a lot of research. I did a lot of studying. And instead of seeing it as work, like I did like back in college, it was just something fun. Like, it was still fun for me to do. And that's really where it all started.
Wow. Okay. Thanks so much for sharing that. I feel like, okay, I have a couple questions. One is, why do you think that writing was your preferred creative method? Like, why was it writing for you, do you think?
I think I started at a young age, like, I don't know, doing those lesson plans for my brothers. I would like cut out paper and make little booklets to teach them their ABCs. And then as I got older, writing in my diary, and being expressive and being creative in that way. And then it just felt natural for me. I enjoy lyrical writing. I used to write a lot of poems as a kid too. I mean, it wasn't great poetry, but I enjoyed rhyming and just writing about all sorts of topics. So I think for me, it was just a natural choice.
Yeah.
To write.
Okay.
And show my feelings that way. Yeah.
No, that's great. So that was your method of expressing yourself. Yeah. I'm curious too, like you mentioned how you read the book Big Magic. I'm curious what brought that in your life at the time, because it sounds like maybe you were looking for creative opportunities or something, or you were starting to kind of be drawn towards it. So I'm just curious, like, what brought you to the Big Magic and then kind of sparked the whole thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I just liked Elizabeth Gilbert and her style of writing.
So you were reading her stuff?
I was reading her stuff, her books,
okay.
Eat, Pray, Love, and just other books written by her. But to your point, I think probably just inside of me, I think an inner voice was always just saying, like, where's your creative self? Like, I was always creative as a child, and I lost that. So I think a part of me was just trying to quietly find that, because there was so much noise around me, all the adulting stuff that, I didn't listen to the whispers. So I think subconsciously, I was like, I do want to live a creative life. I want to live a rich life. I think creativity lends itself to a richer life in whatever form it is that it may be for you as a person. It talks about, and the book talks about, like, being creators, being producers of something, and not just consumers of something. And I think as a society, we're consumers of things, of lots of things. And the thought of, like, being a creator, being a producer, cultivating something just felt so wholesome to me. And so after that book, I started to garden. I started just cultivating all sorts of things in my life. And I think just writing and developing stories was just part of that. Producing, growing, putting something out in the world versus just taking from the world.
Wow, that's really beautifully put. So And it's cool to see that so as you were reading Elizabeth Gilbert, that brought you to like produce it. So
Yeah.
consuming eventually led you to produce, but you had to cultivate that, as you said, which is really active. And what I heard you say is like your husband signed you up for that class,
Yeah.
great supportive husband there. And then you also had to protect your creativity in other ways. Like you had to say it out loud and like really declare yourself as a writer. Were there
Yeah.
any other ways that like, I think sometimes it can be hard to maintain our creative life as adults with all the responsibilities we have. And so were there any other ways that you had to fight for your creativity or protect
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I think that we all go through that imposter syndrome, right? And like for a long time, I wouldn't call myself a writer. I just say it so timidly, like, oh yeah, I'm just dabbling in writing. I didn't want to, because I think most people think that you're only a writer if you're published, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was so, like, if you're, and so I was always very, very timid about sharing my writing, and, unless it was someone I trusted, like my trusted group of friends and community. But I think what's important, and this is why I so love about our writing community, is that everyone is so supportive. And so I remember just being on Twitter and just, making friends with all these folks that I didn't know, and reading their posts and reading people's supportive, just support, like, hey, if you write, you're a writer. Say it out loud, be proud of it. And just seeing what other people and how they were speaking about writing really gave me courage to say, hey, I'm a writer. Sure, I'm not a published author, but I'm a writer because I write. So I made myself these little, business cards that says Angela Pham Krans, writer. And so, it's just these little things that you do for yourself to just continually validate that what you're doing is good and true. And even if you're not published, you're still a writer. And so I think that's how I found the courage to really say it out loud. And I think until you say it out loud and let the world hear it, I think you're not really giving yourself a chance. I know it's scary because you can get judged, right? People are like, yeah, whatever, she's a writer. Everyone's a writer, but it's fine. That's how they feel. That's their opinion. But I feel like it's really important to say it out loud, and whether it's just to one other person or even to yourself in a room by yourself, to say whatever it is that you're dreaming or wanting, to just say it out loud so that the world hears it, even if no another person hears it, but the world hears it. And I feel like once you say it, things really start to move, and then
Yeah.
things I feel like it starts to change for you.
How did it change for you? Like, what were some of the signs that things were starting to move as you declared it to the world and, like you said, say it out loud and really protect that creative space of yours? Like, what was your trajectory to get to this Finding Papa debut?
Yeah. So, I mean, I did everything I could around with writing. I joined contests, and I joined the mentorship program that I think Justin Cologne, I hope
Yeah.
that's how you pronounce his last name. But he has the PB Chat mentorship program. And so I signed up for it. I actually, Finding Papa was the story I used to submit along with the application. And Corey Dorefeld is an author. I think a lot of us know her books, like The Rabbit Listened. Great person. She was my mentor, and she helped me refine the story. And from there, I participated in the December showcase. So part of the PB Chat mentorship is at the end of your mentorship, there's a showcase in December where agents and editors may join, and they see a snippet of your work. And if they like it, you can submit and query to them. And so just through several events, I was able to meet my agent, Catherine Westbetcher from Bradford Literary Agency. And I signed with her in March 2020, right during COVID, in the middle of COVID. And then she sold the story to HarperCollins in May. So it
Wow.
was pretty quickly. But, I think it's important, like, to know that it's not huge milestones that I was going for. Like, I just took little steps, and everything I did whether, I mean, just reading other people's stories, studying mentor texts, like I never saw it as like a waste of time. I just felt like it was just another pebble, like another step towards something greater. And I didn't know when that great thing would happen or even expected it in a certain time frame. I just kind of did what I thought I needed to do to be a better writer or improve my craft. And then eventually it got me to these bigger milestones. And I always say, no matter what you're doing, even if it's like 5 minutes of writing or 5 minutes of doing something writing related, uh, it all counts. You know, every bit of it counts towards the bigger picture. So
That's so motivational. Like everything counts, even as you were saying, the research, the mentor text, and you didn't feel any of it was a waste. That's so powerful and
yeah,
inspiring. And look where it led you, all those small steps, and you like protecting your creativity that way and really embracing it. So I'm so excited for where you are now. So now let's talk about your book, Finding Papa. So I know that it hasn't come out
yeah,
yet, so we'll be careful about what we talk about and what we don't talk about.
yeah,
But
it's fine.
I found Finding Papa is such a powerful book about the strength of a family who sacrifice each other and overcome challenges to stay together. And I know that it's based on your own family. Like
Yeah,
it's a fictional tale inspired by your family. And so
yeah.
I was curious, what was the process like as you gathered the memories and stories from your parents about their journey to take you from Vietnam to America?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up listening and hearing my parents tell this story, but you know, they never told the story from like beginning to end. It was just like in little pieces and bits everywhere. And I always thought, wow, that's amazing how I came over to America. It's like a boat, a ship, a plane. I mean, it was missing a train, but it was just, it was just this incredible journey. And I was too young to remember it. So hearing my parents tell it was very special. So I wanted to write this story from the perspective of a child, even though I couldn't remember it. So I knew it'd be a powerful story to tell from a child's perspective. And I think one of my favorite parts was interviewing my parents and really getting the whole story and really understanding what happened. And my parents were so young. My mom was, how old was she? Like 23, 24 years old. My dad was only a few years older. And it was just incredible, this journey that they took to reunite. So I did a lot of research. I interviewed them. I went through, the list of Q&A and decided which scenes I wanted to add to the story. And I did a ton of research on the ship that saved us. It's called Ned Lloyd. It was a shipping company, a Dutch shipping company, and I wanted to research like what our ship actually looked like back then. And I learned that that ship was decommissioned. That saved us. But just learning all these things, and through my research, I was reading other people's stories um, that took this trip and how they reconnected with their families, but also reconnected with the people who saved them, 10, 20 years later. And it was just incredible. And I just knew that it was a story I wanted to write. And my parents were so brave. I mean, at 24, my mom was carrying a young child across the country and across the oceans. And I mean, I don't know what you guys were doing at 24, but I had like recently graduated, moved to Jacksonville, Florida. Was still eating like hot dogs, heating it up in the microwave, like totally not mature or brave. So it was just so incredible what my mom did, or
Yeah,
what my dad did. So
I felt the power of that as I read, of just like how young she was, like you said, and I was eating hot dogs too. And I feel like what I really loved about your book is that all of your characters, so like the kid, it's from the kid perspective, and you respected the kid
yeah,
perspective throughout. And but at the same time, you showed the power of the parents. And all three characters were like such powerful characters going through their own,
yeah,
their own journey and difficulties and challenges in their
yeah,
own ways. So I feel like you really respected the characters
yeah.
that way. And so I was curious, like, how I know that the journey was extremely dangerous. So I'm curious how that process was of making sure that it wasn't too scary for
Yeah,
kids, but also
yeah,
like being true to what actually happened,
yeah,
what that experience was like, the process was like for you.
yeah, yeah. It's a great question because it's a children's book, so I wanted to be hopeful and happy and about love and family and a community that helps each other. So I definitely didn't want to focus on the dangers, but I didn't want to minimize it either. So I think the character, whose name is Mai, she is going through these things with her mom, but she's processing it differently than how her mom is processing it. The story starts with them playing a game, the Crocodile Chomp Chomp. Um, and so it's a game that she plays with her papa. And, when he leaves, she uses the Chomp Chomp throughout the story to process her feelings almost. Like Chomp Chomp started off as a fun game, but then when he was gone, Chomp Chomp became something like wah wah, like sad, and then Chomp Chomp also could represent scary. When they're in the water, you don't know what's in the water. Crocodile could be in the water. So, she's processing it through this game that she plays, but she's always looking for him. But, she's always using this chomp chomp game to like help her get through each step of the journey until, the end of the story. So I really wanted to make sure that, that it wasn't a scary story for kids. It's, about family and hope, and courage. And this child is just processing it however she can, and as kids do, a game, something that is not how adults would process it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the Chomp Chomp, the way that it changes throughout the story, I thought was so brilliant. Like it's just like you said, and I think you pulled it off so well. And I
Oh,
can't
thank
wait
you.
for everyone to get to read this book because it's really amazing and empowering. And really like it made me feel close to my own family as I read it. But one last question is, I was curious as you made this, like what you learned about yourself as a creator that you
Mm-hmm.
can take into other books or into your creative process in the future. Like what was something that you learned making this book?
Yeah, I learned that I really enjoy writing lyrical text,
Mm.
kind of soft and sing-songy. But I also learned that I love stories of just like, it probably sounds super cheesy, but like very heartfelt stories. Um, Stories about family and community. Always stories about helping each other. So I feel like the community is so important, the community around us. And however you define community, is it just your family? Is it your family neighbors? Is it more of your, city community? I think it's just so important. Sometimes we feel so individualistic, but I feel like what makes the world so beautiful is that you have others around you to help you, to learn, to get through hard times. And I feel like that those themes are what gets weaved into the stories. Because it's important to me, and I want to make sure that it's reflected in the stories that I write. So
Yeah.
I also learned that I like humorous stories. Like I read so many wonderful, talented authors who write such wonderfully humorous books. I do see DK Ryland on here, I think on the chat. DK is amazing, and her books are always so humorous and fun and charming. And that is so hard to write. I kind of think I'm a funny person in
Oh,
real
you
life,
are.
but when I write books, I'm like, I'm so not funny. Like I don't know how to inject humor in my books.
You are
So
funny.
that's something I want in my books, but something I need to work towards and to practice.
Yeah,
So
I feel like
heartfelt and humor.
comedic timing on the page and out loud, like there's such an interesting, I don't know, like
Yeah.
it's a challenge to convey that, but I've read your books and you are funny on the page too. Just say.
I
So
try. It's
yeah,
hard.
I can't wait to see your future funny books. Do you have any other projects that will be published soon?
Yes. So I have a story called Words Between Us coming out fall this year by HarperCollins as well. It's about a young boy named Felix and his relationship with his grandmother. So his grandmother moves into his home and, she's not very fluent in English. And so it's a story about a young child building a relationship with his grandmother and showing love through different ways and teaching her a different language and just kind of the hilarity that comes with it. And it really, what inspired the stories, when my grandparents came to America and my brothers and I developing a relationship with them and teaching them all the way and the American culture and what we like to eat and different words and hearing them say it. So it's really a story about, again, family themes, helping each other, and just like intergenerational relationships. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'll look forward to reading that. Where can people find you and connect with you? Where's the best
Sure.
place?
Yeah. I'm on Twitter at Angela Krans, and then I'm on Instagram as well. I have 2 Instagram accounts. Don't ask about that. But you can find me at angela.pham.krans or angelapham25. And then, of course, my website, angelakrans.com. So those are the different ways you can connect. So hopefully you'll stop by and say hello.
And that's where they can go to pre-order your book, right? On your website?
Yep, you can go to my website to order the book, or you can, really order the book anywhere now on Amazon, Target, Barnes & Nobles, your local bookstore. So thank you in advance for your support.
Yeah, I hope everyone will go out and pre-order Finding Papa. This was a lovely chat with you, Angela, as always. I love laughing
Thank you,
with you
Rachel.
and talking with you.
Likewise.
So thanks again for sitting with me at the kid table. And thanks everyone for showing up and joining us. Bye.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.